Hey, this is Kimberly, and this is the Mommy Project. Thank you so much for joining me this week as we are working on our new season. And this is going to be episode 82 of the Mommy Project. The Mommy Project is an interactive podcast in which each week I'm going to take a certain topic that is kind of personal to me or something that I've been thinking about and just sharing it with you guys. And then at the end, kind of asking you a few questions like that maybe have that I've been thinking about as well. And so I'm hoping that the interactive podcast, you will take the questions that I kind of put out there, and maybe in your own journal time, you might think about it and write about it as a part of your reflective part of your day, or just let me know how it's going on social media. And so, or maybe talk to a friend about whatever we're discussing this week, so that we're kind of creating a community among women and among especially mamas, because I feel like as mothers, especially in our fast-paced, hurry up, let's get it all done type of world, we often feel isolated from each other, and we're often struggling with the same kind of issues or thought process, or we're kind of real critical on ourselves. And so having that camaraderie and that kind of weekly encouragement that you're not alone is something that the Mommy Project is all about, to encourage women in their mother journey, their parenting journey. So anyway, this is episode 82, and I am so excited that you guys have joined me this week. I have recently, as of right now, when I'm recording, it is 11 p.m. at night, and it's a summer night, so that's to be expected, late hours, but we have just kind of gotten home from spending the entire day with some family that we don't get to see very often. And one of the things that they were asking me was, what has been the biggest change over the past year? Because, like I said, I haven't seen them in quite a while. It's probably been 6, maybe 8 months since I've seen them. And they know that I have taken quite a different pace of life over from 2018 summer to the 2019 summer. And so anyway, that got me thinking about this past year, and I'm kind of hitting a milestone this week, actually, because it's been a year since the Ironman, since I finished Ironman Boulder. June 10th of 2018 is when I finished. And from that point to now, this past week, 2019, my life has drastically changed in many ways. And so I was kind of reflective in that. And so I wanted to kind of share with you guys, because when we come up to a milestone, whether it's a birthday, whether it's just a new season. And what I mean by milestone is I just mean a new season of life. And we're constantly in new seasons of life, whether we realize it or not. Sometimes it's easier when we do realize, okay, this is a brand new season that I'm in. It's easier for us to manage it or to kind of allow ourselves to change within that season. But if we're kind of thrust into it without realizing it until later, I don't know about you, but I tend to fight the changes that are happening without really understanding what's going on. I feel a lot of anxiety or resentment or frustration, or, because I don't handle change very well. And so I wanted to share with you what has changed from my summer last year, this time last year, from this year. And by doing that, I think the best way to describe the changes is just to look at my daily life, like my day-to-day rhythm has completely changed. So to give you an idea, 2018 was 2017, 2018 was an absolute epic year. And I mean epic in every single way. Like there was not a moment in my daily life, like every single day, there was not a moment that did not have some kind of productivity to it. I mean, every moment counted. So a typical day and I mean 2017, because when I signed up for the Ironman, it was September of 2017. So I had from September to June 10th, 2018 to train for that. And so on my daily routine looked something like this. I would wake up, but sometimes at 4 to do a workout. But most of the time, if I wasn't doing an early morning workout at 4 a.m., it would be, 6 o'clock a.m., getting the kids dressed, getting them some sort of breakfast that was, it wasn't anything special, hurrying them out the door, taking the boys to their school, or my husband would take them to their little school, their preschool, and I would take my daughter to her elementary school that was right up the road. Get there, wave goodbye, hope and pray that she had a great day, and then speed off to where I worked. I was a teacher, and so I would have 8 o'clock classes and have to, be on at 8 a.m. in the morning, which most of us that work, we have to be that way. And so I would teach from 8 to 12 or 8 to 2, depending on the day. I would somehow cram breakfast into my body either while I was driving to work or after my first class. And then as soon as I got off of work, I was heading straight for the gym, or I was heading straight home to change into my clothes to go run or to swim. Usually if I had a run day or a swim day, I was able to do that between the hours that I got off work and that I had to pick up my kids from school. And so most of the days, when I was at work, I was getting all my work done. I was not bringing any work home. Like, that was my goal too. And it's been my goal since I had kids. It was to try to work is at work, home is home. And in order to do that, I realized I had that kind of job at the time. But in order to do that, I had to, not waste any time at all. Like, just be very, very vigilant about staying on top of essays and email and grades, and really be very clear in my communication with my students. Anyway, I would work out. Then, still dripping with sweat or fresh from the pool, I would run to pick up my daughter from school, go pick up the boys, go home, give them a snack, do the homework, go outside and play to get all the angst and extra energy that they had out, start supper, and then, if I had to do a second workout, it was after they went to bed. And in between that time, I was probably, trying to spend some time with my husband as well, obviously. And that was a typical day. Every single moment in my day had to count, and there was no downtime at all. I also had I was doing a bi-weekly podcast at the time. So I was doing, our regular episodes plus the Sunday confession. I was doing all the research, all the interview, kind of all that kind of stuff. Me and my husband helped with the production side of the podcast. So obviously I wouldn't have been able to do any of that without him. But, I worked, had three children to take care of, podcast and training for an Ironman. And we only have 24 hours. And I was keeping that intensity level up from September until the moment that I ran through the finish line, And I'm telling you all this to say that my life, the pace of my life during that season was intense. It was very, very, I wouldn't say it was hurried, but it was very intentional, and it required a lot of willpower. It required a lot of emotional motivation and inspiration, and relying on friends to just encourage me when I was having an absolute meltdown in the middle of a workout, in the middle of a bike ride. I would have these big meltdowns. And it was because I was tired. I was constantly just trying to push. And so when I was getting closer to the Ironman, the finish of wrapping that up, I understood that I was going to struggle with not having anything to do. Me and my husband, I remember talking about, well, what are you going to do after you're done with this chapter or this season of your life? Because you don't handle change very well, and you don't handle downtime or free time or off days very well. And so I anticipated that to happen. And so fast forward to 2019, immediately really my life started changing. Like, I struggled right after we came home from Boulder. I struggled with insomnia really bad. And I guess I just had so much adrenaline. I really have no idea, because I'm not an expert. I haven't done much research on why people react that way, but it's common for people to struggle with the blues, if you will, after something big and monumental that happens and you're done with it. Think about when you graduate, or you have finally walked down that aisle to get married, and you're now kind of back into your daily routine, the quotidian of your day. Some of us, we don't know how to handle that very well, and we might kind of go into a slump with our emotions. And so anyway, a normal day so I told you what a normal day looked like there. A normal day in 2019 is that I wake up around 6:45 and I am now, instead of working, sorry, I'm itching like really bad. Instead of working, I'm now a stay-at-home mom, and I have homeschooled this past year, and I have all 3 kids, which that's a radical change in itself, going from a working mom and always been a working mom to a stay-at-home. You're with your children all the time, all day, all night, all the time, no downtime. That's a big change, and that was something that I have and still am learning how to do. But like, my daily life has, I wake up later. I'm not hurried. I get to make my kids breakfast in the morning. And we, like, right now we're on summer break, but during a typical day, we would do school in the morning. Sometimes we would usually have stories, and I would read them stories, and then I would go work out. Like, I would take them to the gym and work out, because I was needing that extra energy out of my body to help me function and to help me, like, not function, but to keep me sane. Exercise, physical exercise, moving my body is my only way that I have learned at this moment in my life to stave off the aggression that I deal with, or the frustration, the angst, and the just nervous energy that I have to get out of my body, or else I'll get extra frustrated and irritated. And I realize maturity plays a part of that. But anyway, I'm off on a tangent. But so we would have our morning kind of routine, and then I would go work out with them, and they would come with me. We'd come back, we'd have lunch. It was just very, very different. Very, very different. And so 1 year is highly productive, especially in our American culture standards. I've got a lot to show for it. I'm working. I'm bringing home a paycheck. Although it's not that big, but it was a paycheck. I'm training for this massive race that most people are just like nuts to do. And, on top of that, creative, like, podcast, and then you're a mom, and then you're trying to spend time with your husband, and you're engaged with your family, and, all these things. And then I go from that to a life that's a lot more sedentary, a lot more laid back, slow pace. I'm pregnant. That's a whole other not issue, but a whole other difference between 2017 and 18 to this year. And so I'm telling you all this to say that when we shift seasons, it can bring up a lot of emotions. It can bring up a lot of hang-ups or just big feelings, And so I'm going to share with you like some of my highs of the years and some of my really like things that I really struggle with. So in 2018, my high or the thing that I enjoyed the most, like I got the most relief or pleasure, or I hate to use the word pleasure, but it was the best part of my day was after I finished a workout. I mean, like once I got that off my checklist, I was able to relax the rest of the day. So that's what motivated me often to get up at 4 a.m. in the morning to do my workout, my swim or a bike session or, my 8 or 9 mile run or whatever I had that day to do. If I got that out of the way, I could relax and enjoy the rest of the day. Another thing that I noticed was when I had to ride my bike, especially outdoors, when I would come home, I would be so relieved and just like feel safe again, because we don't necessarily live in a very bike friendly community. We don't live in a friendly at all. I mean, it's just not at all friendly to bikers. And so oftentimes, I would be praying my way through the entire bike ride, hoping that, I didn't get run over, or yelled at or whatever. I mean, people are they're just different here. And so oftentimes when I would come home, I would remember thinking, I'm safe now. I'm okay. And I didn't even realize at the time how much anxiety I was having just doing the actual training plan and how much energy it took. And my lowest part of the year, or during that particular season, was my off days. Like I trained 6 days a week. And so one day I would have an off or a rest day, is what they call it. Or sometimes I would, I would go through a very intense phase, then I'd have a whole week off. And so during the rest weeks or the rest days, they were awful. I mean, I just didn't know what to do with myself. I would usually have some kind of crying jag, or I would have a lot of energy, or, I just was amped up, and so those were my lowest parts. And translation to this year, my highest part of the day is probably when I read. I know this sounds super sappy, but sometimes my highest part of the day or my favorite part of the day is when I get to sit down with my kids on the carpet in their living room or around their little table, and I read them a story. And it's not just a story, and it's not just that moment, but it's the moment that they're not asking questions. They're not interrupting. They're busy eating their peanut butter sandwiches again for the umpteenth millionth time for lunch. Or we're reading a favorite poem that they absolutely love, or they really get into the story. They start to giggle. I mean, I have kids that are 6, 4, and 2. So to get them connected to a story is not that easy. So, but sometimes those moments are the only moments that I feel like I have it's the win of my day. And what I mean by that is a lot of things could go wrong, homeschooling and staying home. I had a lot of expectations going into it. I had a lot of dreams basically. And I knew they weren't founded completely in reality, and I'll talk about that in a later episode, but I had a lot of big dreams. And after coming through this first year of homeschool, yeah, that's exactly what they were. They were dreams. They were super high expectations, and I had to adjust accordingly. And so there have been a lot of days where it's been just up and down, up and down. And sometimes the only win that I feel like, I feel like, okay, I'm doing a good job, is those moments where I'm sitting down reading a book to my kids, or we're having a meal together and we're talking about something that we're reading at that moment. And that takes a lot of energy out of you. Staying home with your kids, that is a big, strenuous type of job too. And it doesn't get any clout in our culture, like absolutely no real recognition. I mean, you can, what am I trying to say? Like I would even, during this new season of my life, when people would ask me, especially at the beginning, when people would ask me, what do I do? I would say, well, I stay at home with my kids and I'm homeschooling, but I just resigned from my job at blah, 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 blah. So I would kind of tell them, okay, I am educated, or I have been in the workforce. I haven't just been staying home all my life. And I found myself defending my choices, and I didn't even need to, but I felt like I had to, like to show that I'm a productive human being. And that's complete incorrect thinking. Just because I'm not bringing home a paycheck and I don't have monetary value attached to what I do doesn't mean that what I'm doing is not valuable. But that was, again, when you're in a new season of life, you struggle mentally. Your identity is shifting too. I mean, and a new season could be when you just have a new birthday, or when your child is going off to kindergarten, or you're watching your child graduate from high school and they're about to go to college, and that empty nest season is about to hit, and you're like, I wasn't ready for this. I knew this was coming. I know this is part of life, but I'm really struggling. And so by recognizing, those different seasons, and recognizing that you're about to approach one, or that you just went through one, can help you put a lot of things in place, and put things in perspective. Maybe that's why you are so exhausted, is because you truly did have such an intense year. I have one of my close friends, she just finished, she went back to teaching, and she just finished her first year teaching at a Title I school. And I mean, it was unbelievably intense. And she was telling me about her schedule, like that she had to wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning just to get herself prepared to leave at 6, to drive the commute, to be at school by 7:15, and then she's working and tutoring until 4:30, and then she's coming home, and she's a mom, and she's a wife, and I mean, and then she's like, I'm so I'm tired, I'm a little bit frazzled, and I'm like, yeah, you have a right to be. And I think that's something that we as women need to tell each other. It's like to give each other recognition that, yes, the reason why you are feeling this way, good or bad, is because of all of these moments, that you have just walked through, or that you have just done. And so that's just an example of like how things have been different from 2018 to 2019. I mean, on top of that, I am 8 months pregnant, and that was a big change. When you're going through pregnancy, or you're about to have a new baby, or you have a new baby, when you're going through the toddler phase, and the when with the school age phase. I mean, everything has a new season with highs and lows to it. And so anyway, I wanted to share that with you, just as a way to kind of offer perspective on if you are, and I have no advice to give because I don't handle it well at all. I mean, I struggle. One of the things I struggled the most with is something really dumb, but I went from being able to go out and run 8-10 miles and not really just, I mean, I resisted. I'm like, oh, that's a lot. But it wasn't so monumental to me because I had gotten used to it. I'd gotten to that new normal. I went from that to like feeling like I was dying if I walked a mile, like just so out of breath and so tired, and because of pregnancy and the toll that takes on your body, you know. So even that was a huge adjustment. And my husband can tell you, I would get so frustrated with my body because I'm like, I'm so tired all the time. And it's like, no, duh, you're pregnant, you know? So sometimes just having someone remind you, yes, you are feeling this way because of all of that's going on around you. But the good thing is it's a season, and seasons change and rhythms change. And just because you might be in a slower pace or a faster pace or a hurried pace, or maybe you're struggling, you're just feeling sad or overwhelmed during this particular time in your life, doesn't mean it's always going to be that way. There are, just as there are seasons in the year, even though we live in Louisiana, we don't have much of a winter. We don't have much of a fall or spring. Well, we have a heck of a long summer. It's just hot. Even then, we understand and our bodies react to different seasons. And the way that I am in the wintertime, I'm completely different in the summer. I need sun. I need to be outside. I need to be able to get outdoors in order for me to be a better person. And just knowing that kind of adds perspective to it. So anyway, I wanted to hear from you guys. What has been the biggest change from last year to this year, and how have you rolled with it? I mean, are you one that just kind of like, I'm easy with it. I just kind of go with the flow. Whatever life gives me, I just kind of toss back there willy-nilly. Or are you more a fighter? You resist it, or you struggle with it, whether you realize it or not. How do you react to the different changes of the seasons that you're in? So I would love to hear from you guys about that. And again, shoot me, DM me on Instagram. That's where you can find me. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear what you would want me to talk about on the podcast, any topic at all whatsoever. And so you can find me on Instagram. That's my hub, my favorite social media platform. And I'm at the Mommy Pro. You can go to my website, and that's where you can hear all the past episodes that we have had in previous seasons. And again, I listed in the relaunch episode last week, I mentioned a few of ones that I would start with, which would be the Sarah McKenzie Read Aloud Revival podcast episode. I don't know the numbers offhand, but I also have had so many just really awesome mamas come into my home and talk to me and share their hearts with me. And I mean, they're just rock stars, and we're just everyday mamas doing our thing, doing the best that we can. And so a lot of those stories are also found on the Mommy Project podcast. So it's not just people that have a big platform and have a podcast or a website or a blog or written a book. It's also just within our, our mama community, mamas who have, who are doing the foster care, mothering and parenting, mamas who have struggled with depression or anxiety or, single mamas, any blended families, I have talked to a variety of women. And so anyway, go and check those episodes out. They're really good. They're not video. That this is part of the new season. So I'm hoping that you're enjoying that. And so next week, I am going to be sharing with you 10 things that I've learned from my first year of homeschool. And they're not how-tos, they're not advice that you would follow necessarily, but it's just things that I have learned that I wanted to share with you, because a lot of people ask me, well, how was the first year of homeschool? And what I really want to tell them is, well, ask me next year, because I'm going to have, 2 children that I'm going to be teaching and an infant. So really, that's going to be the true test, but I did learn a lot. I had a lot of fun. So check that episode out. That's going to be next week on the Mommy Project. Again, my website is themommypro.com, and you can find all past episodes. That's where you can find the documentary, Braving the Ironman, and that is my entire journey from start to finish of the Ironman training and the race day. And you can find Maiden Grit episodes. Those are for mostly focused on the fitness, endurance, nutrition, training plans, things like that had to do with Ironman or an endurance sport. And so you can find that also on the website. All right, guys, check me out on YouTube. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe. Hit that button below. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this podcast, please give me a review. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode. I'm so excited about this season that we're in. So, and I would love to hear from you of how your new seasons are going. All right.